Eleanor Burke is absent. Miguel Viteri. Miguel's here, but he's having trouble with his microphone. Lewis Haywood. Eleanor Burke is
Here.
Oh, Eleanor, great. I'm glad you made it. Thanks. And Lindsay Glatz is absent. So we have everyone except for Lindsay. The public comment form link is available at NOLA.gov/CPC and will be available until the end of the 5-minute recess, after which public comment will be read into the record as part of the consideration of dockets. At this time, would the committee make a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from the March 3rd and 17th meetings?
Motion to adopt the minutes.
We have a motion by Parks and Parkways. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by DPW. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion passes. One item on today's agenda has been withdrawn. Item number 4, design review docket 3621 for a property located at 4338 Elysian Fields Avenue has been withdrawn. The third item on today's agenda is the reconsideration of design review docket 2621 for a property located at 4535 South Claiborne Avenue. We have John Dower signed up to speak on behalf of this application, and Joanna is the CPC staff member assigned to this case. As a reminder, following the staff presentation, the applicant will have 10 minutes to present.
Right, so this is an item that was heard at the last DAC meeting, and the comments were about revising the site design to be more contextual, incorporating context also in the materiality of the building, preserving street trees, considering the setbacks for the parking lot in the building, looking at sidewalk alignment, considering the bus stop as part of the site, looking at ADA compliance, and accommodating the existing tree canopy, and also reconsidering the proportion of windows on the building facade. So the applicant has provided revised plans, which are for consideration today.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. The applicant now has 10 minutes to present.
Hi, good morning. This is John Dower.
Good morning, John. We can hear you.
Okay. So, yeah, to incorporate the comments, the first thing we did was add 2 new oak trees to South Claiborne to make up for removing the 1 existing tree, and then we added the required number of street trees on Cadiz Street. So we have a total of 5 holly trees now. And we worked with Lewis to incorporate the extra paving at the bus stop and align the sidewalks. And so for the exterior, we explored multiple options for the siding, different configurations, and we enlarged the windows on all the options, and we think that's we appreciate that comment that we think helped the look of the building. But as architects and also on behalf of the owner, we really think option 1 is the strongest option. And there's a couple reasons for that. One of the reasons is it creates brand unity with their existing medical facility in Gretna. And we think option 1 is most fitting for the use of the building as a medical clinic on the South Claiborne corridor. We think it's a clean look, especially with the concrete base. It helps, it gives the building a strong presence, and it really reflects the use of the building. if this was a multifamily building, it'd look much different, bigger windows, but the building's lined with patient rooms, so that's why the building looks the way it does. So we'd really like to get a resolution on this today, and hopefully y'all will consider allowing us to move forward with option 1.
Yeah, this is Charlie Ward. I'm joining John. I concur with what John said. We did explore, as you can see, options 2, 3, and 4, and work on alternative if we needed to seek some, compromise with DAC. And certainly we'd like to reach that compromise today. And the owners are willing. They would certainly prefer option 1, but if we could, have option 1 on the Claiborne facing side, they are certainly understanding and would welcome kind of using the lap siding on the, residential facing sides. If it was the DAC, thought that would be appropriate. We've looked at different ways of doing this, and we're willing to work together with you to resolve this today. Thank you.
Before the committee speaks on the changes and our opinions, can you just kind of walk us through the site design changes? Because I know that was a large portion of our commentary last time as well.
Yeah, so the only site design changes were we added 2 new oak trees, and it's shown on the landscape plan. The architecture site plan doesn't show all the trees, but yeah, so there's 2 new oak trees on South Claiborne on either side of the driveway. And then there's an additional holly tree on Cadiz. And then we removed one of the ADA parking spots that isn't required because the slope is in question. But we believe the rest of the site is compliant. And also the Public Works comments, to the southeast corner of the site, we enlarged that sidewalk so that it aligns with the existing. And then at the corner near the bus stop, we added a 5x8 strip of paving so that you could put a bench there and make it more welcoming.
So did you do any studies about how you could change or deal with the street tree, the existing live oak where you've placed your driveway? That was one of the things I thought we talked about was this is a very healthy live oak tree, and we're not really in the business of cutting down healthy trees just to accommodate a new building when you knew the tree was there to begin with and you designed as if it wasn't. And we also talked about how your building is going to impact a very large percentage of the other live oak tree in terms of its canopy that's going to have to be pruned out. I'm curious, where's that work?
Yeah, so during the design process, we did multiple iterations. At one point, the building was located on the back of the site. At one point, it was turned 90 degrees, and it moved all over the site. But this was to fit the parking and the program requirements, this was the best solution.
And the bill too.
What are you going to do when we don't allow you to cut the tree down?
Well, we're certainly requesting permission to remove that tree. I believe the precedent has been set in other locations.
Excuse me, hold on. The precedent is right across the street from you where we made them redesign their building to accommodate the street trees that are there.
Understand.
So you're coming into this asking for something, actually demanding that we let you cut down a tree. And I'm not seeing any mitigation for the existing tree that's to remain, nor am I seeing you actually doing what we always require, which is replacing caliper inch for caliper inch. I don't see that. I'm sorry I'm being a little harsh, but I don't see any effort to show us that past work that says, hey, this is where we looked at the building in the back of the lot. We looked at, we talked about flipping it vertical in terms of this plan view to kind of work with the site as the conditions that you have. You don't own that property outside of your property line. So it should have been something that y'all looked at to look at. And you also have, I haven't verified it, but you also have another street tree over on Cadiz that needs to be replaced if you're going to take it out. It was there before. I don't know if it's still there now, but it's just a little bit much. We haven't been in the business of letting people just chop down street trees that are healthy. If the street tree goes, it's probably because it's not healthy or there's some other issue that's going on with that tree that it will no longer be viable in this location. I'm not saying that we're not going to let you do it, but it's just the assumption here is kind of staggering to me.
And certainly we mean no disrespect. We have studied multiple options to get the owner the program size and balance of parking that we need on the site. The site is not very easy to lay out the parking and get the number of spots we needed. So that kind of determined the most efficient location for the driveway. If we could have saved that tree, we certainly would have done everything we could have. And I think our track record as a firm has shown that we try to work with the existing trees and in the right of way. In this situation, we reached a frustration point where we couldn't do anything with that tree. We certainly are happy to keep the one on the corner as healthy as we can. We'll prune it, we'll feed it, we'll do everything we can to keep that tree vital and moving forward. And to answer your question, we'd be happy to match caliper by caliper inch on the two replacement trees for the tree that we just need to remove. But it's not done out of disrespect or to be cavalier here. It's just to make this site work for this client and their program. It was the most efficient way to reach the goal that we needed to get to.
So is the parking numbers that you're going for, are they for meeting your program needs or are they for meeting zoning requirements? Because those are two different things in terms of.
They're zoning requirements. We're meeting the minimum zoning requirements.
Okay.
But we're happy to work with you to increase the caliper on the replacement trees.
Yeah,
we can add replacement trees if you would like.
We just need to look at all of, so this still has to go to our urban forester for approval because I'm not going to approve removing a tree. So this will still have to go to him. And I mean, I know we're kind of deep diving into this, but we're going to have to look at the landscape plan in terms of the trees selected for Cadiz as well, because there's no overhead power lines. And so you really need to have large shade trees over there. So, that's one of the things we just need to look at. But aside from the tree, assuming that you're going to get approval for this tree removal, which honestly, I can't guarantee that you're going to get it. We haven't approved a lot of trees. So, I mean, you really have to think about what are your alternatives if you don't get that tree.
Okay.
Hi, so I guess to continue to comment on the site and building design, I think the in line with Danny's comments from Parks and Parkways approval standards, I think the site design is starting to better meet the goals of the zoning district. And I really want to just kind of take a moment to thank the architects for presenting us different options and actually taking our commentary seriously. This is a kind of thing that really helps our committee, right? So everyone loves options. And so I think I'm going to advocate for this committee to go for option 4, and I'll tell you why from a very intuitive architectural perspective. So the comments, and I wish HDLC was or a representative from HDLC is here, because the architectural moves and facade moves you're making on option 4 really feel proportionate to the structure's massing that you're doing, right? You're having the horizontal banding kind of being the more hierarchical element, and the kind of other etching or materiality kind of blend into that, right? While option one kind of just presents it as one solid mass with no hierarchy or kind of, I'll just leave it there. And so, you know, you kind of have this banding that acts as a cornice on top, kind of delineates the first floor. And for some reason, I feel like the windows on that facade, as well as from what we previously saw, work better, right? Because you have the kind of more square windows in the middle, the nice kind of glass or multi-floor glazing that ties it together. And so looking back at the precedent image, and again, thank you for the precedent images, because that helps us too, you start to see something similar in terms of grounding with the kind of, what is that, more stone element, and a smaller, I admit, cornice. But I guess the only question I have, if you're really, so those are all moves I commend, especially in option 4, and that I feel would be consistent with this Gretna facility. That said, the Gretna facility is very bold in its color choice, and I think, you know, that was a comment that our committee made last time. So I'm wondering why that hasn't translated here, and I only bring that up because I think that could benefit to the building design as well. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we looked at some colors on particularly option 3. We made that tighter siding a darker color, but we didn't want to get too obvious with it that we were making a red cross, but we're open to adding some deeper colors to it.
Yeah, I don't know what our motion is going to be, but I would definitely encourage that because New Orleans definitely has that level of color vitality. It feels like, I don't know if the cross, because the for example, in the precedent image, this kind of entrance vestibule has doesn't have the cross, but it does have the color, and I think that could kind of easily slip into one of these glass bands. I leave that to the architects and the experts, but I think it can be worked in fairly easily. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know if any other committee members have any comments about the building design or what option, but I think option 4 would likely be most successful in this area.
And that, just to, you know, I do, I mean, I know I was a little harsh about the tree. It's just that we've had about 6 requests in the past couple of weeks for removing healthy trees, so you get the brunt of it. So nothing personal. I just want y'all to know that. For option 1, I mean, I see where Joseph's talking about it, but you know, in order to get that color band that works so well for the Gretna clinic, it seems like option 1 would actually work a little bit better, because you could replace those panels in that tower, which includes the lobby and the elevators and the stairs. If you included color there, then that would really give you that signifier of entry and entry point, like it does on the Gretna clinic. Really draw your attention to that entryway. So I don't have a preference with any of the finishes, because the base architectures remain the same. The cladding to me is secondary to the massing of the building, which is much larger than everything around it. So not necessarily across the street, but on that side of the street. So I did just want to point out about the entryway. It looks like that, you know, with the Gretna Medical Center, that's red really does signify with the raised parapet wall, and with that different type of patterning, you really got a significant point of entry that everybody kind of notices. So.
Yeah, we're happy to introduce more of the red. We've just tried to use some restraint, bringing it over to Claiborne. But we're happy to introduce more of their red. The owner would be very happy to do that.
Hey, can y'all hear me finally?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't know what's been going on with my audio. This is Miguel. Sorry, guys. Let me see if I can do my my video. So I was not in attendance of the first presentation, but I did read the minutes. When I looked at this submittal, hold on a second, guys. I did an independent review of it, and then I read the minutes from the previous submittal, and I kind of feel that the requests that were made, the more salient requests were not necessarily considered. I think that there's a lot of fundamentals here that have been disregarded. This is my neighborhood. I live in Broadmoor. And basically, this is a box that's been plopped down on South Claiborne Avenue. I've written extensive notes that I can go down that addresses all the fundamentals, and this is basically my opinion. And it's going to reiterate some of the things that were already stated. But just depending on how this discussion goes, I can basically start from the beginning and kind of go down if that's what seems to be appropriate.
Yes.
Good. Okay. So once again, I'm from Capital Projects. Would be helpful to have HDLC here as well. But I'm looking at it from an architectural perspective. I focus mostly on massing and overall design. So these are my general comments. Preserving the two mature oak trees and appropriate setbacks to accommodate the tree canopies is a design priority for the site and the neighboring community. The building mats and siding are not contextual with the majority of buildings along Broadmoor side of South Claiborne. The pattern of setbacks of existing structures on Broadmoor side of South Claiborne may provide insight on how to address the building footprint and massing. The applicant's intent to maintain grand unity is not irrelevant to the request for contextual consideration. The mass of the building is monolithic and flat with no modulation in massing or use of materials to create visual interest. The building typology with drive access to site parking through the building is not a contextual model consistent with the Broadmoor side of South Claiborne. I have outlined how to approach the parking if there would be consideration of another way of laying out the parking if needed, but I'm not going to go into those specific details. My comments on building design fundamentals are the exterior finishes for the building have minimal visual interest and unbalanced proportions of window to wall ratio. The composition of building exterior lacks coherence when taken as a whole. The palette of exterior finishes can benefit from the introduction of alternate materials and color. Develop a consistent application of fenestration to all sides of the building. I do have additional detail comments for some of these items, but that's kind of where I started in my review for this submittal.
Okay, thank you, Miguel. And I do believe, Eleanor, did you call in? I thought we had Eleanor on the phone. She had also added a lot of comments. So perhaps we need to bring her in for the next round when we look at this. Are there any other, Miguel?
Haley?
Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it may be helpful, like if we have these comments, make sure that the applicant gets them. It doesn't matter how the vote goes. We do need the applicant and the planner to get these comments so that they can continue to move forward with this project. So like Miguel and Eleanor and everybody, if they could maybe send in their comments so we have a little bit more detail than what our minutes normally allow for?
I have all my comments written down and I can forward it to the, to the appropriate party for dissemination.
Okay, that would be Joanna, so I can get you her contact info. Is there any other further discussion on this item before we move to a break, and we'll have, we'll read the public comment into the record and then we can move to a motion. If there's no further discussion, this concludes the presentation of dockets. The committee will now recess for 5 minutes and return at 10:32. Public comments will be accepted until the end of the 5-minute recess. Okay, the digital public comment period is now closed. We did not receive any public comments, so we will move to the committee discussion, or if the committee is ready to make a motion, we can move to that.
Is everybody back?
Yeah, I'll give it a few seconds for everyone to return. Looks like we're waiting on Miguel and that's it.
Well, as we're waiting for Miguel, I just wanted to confirm with Lewis and DPW that the site design as it stands is fine from their department's perspective.
Yep. Checks all our boxes. I mean, a bigger bus stop would be nice, but we got the tree and what we asked, they did what we asked for in terms of the ADA compliance. It's not really for a bench, as they said, but it's just the kind of a minimum ADA for the bus ramp. But in terms of the driveways and the driveways that are unused and such, that's accurate.
Okay, I guess we'll give it a couple more minutes. Miguel, are you back?
Yeah, I can say that Miguel and I conferred offline, and I think we kind of do want to delve more into the details just to hash it out with the applicant, but it does sound like further review and approval by HDLC capital projects and parks and parkways for sure it will likely be warranted. Yeah, because I guess as we're still waiting for Miguel, I can say that, you know, from our perspective as the city, we definitely want to communicate with the applicant that we're just trying to get to the best design for this site and this area, and we're more than willing to work through them to help them achieve that. And yes, that's what I'll say.
I just texted Miguel just to see if he was, I may not realize he was supposed to be back this quick.
I think since there was no further public comment or rebuttal from the applicant, and Miguel has already provided his comments and he can email them over to Joanna, we can, and it seems like we're moving towards a deferral. If the committee's ready to make a motion, we have enough members to move forward.
Miguel just texted me, he's having technical problems again. So I will make the motion to defer so that the applicant can address the comments that were made by capital projects, by planning, by parks and parkways from previous reviews, as well as this review. And we'll coordinate that through Joanna to give them the comments.
Y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, guys, I'm having technical problems. We could actually discuss further if the applicant is interested in talking a little bit about some of the items that were brought up. I'm happy to do so. It's up to them.
Miguel?
Yes, sir.
I just made a motion to defer so that the applicant has time to address all these comments that we gave them, including yours and mine and planning.
Well, you know, when we make a
Maybe we
motion,
can still
we can open it up for more discussion, because I just don't want to give a lot of comments to the applicant and not kind of give them a direction. So I'm also
good with that.
willing, if Miguel is, and the applicant, to continue this discussion.
Okay, so Danny, can
Yeah,
we agree to
we're-
remove the motion and move forward with discussion? Go ahead, Miguel, if you had some more comments.
Does the applicant have any questions based on what was, what I spoke about earlier?
It seemed from your comments, Miguel, that massing was important. You know, the appropriate materials, the 2 mature oak trees. I wrote what I could, color materials, visual interest. Those are some of the highlights that I picked up.
Yeah, so so based on what you're telling me, you know, I think a priority is to preserve the trees and the canopy. I think it would be appropriate to consider a little bit of a setback. I'm not sure if this property requires a setback, but if you go on site and you look at the context, the immediate context, every building is set back. So aesthetically, I think you can make a consideration of following that, you know, that concept, that urban concept that's a pattern. Once again, I think the biggest priority is preserving those trees. They are mature, beautiful trees on South Claiborne, which I don't believe that the design that you've presented justifies removing one of them. I think that the building that you've presented is a typology that's very similar to one of the buildings across the street. I think that building was of its era, and maybe that design strategy doesn't quite make sense with the drive, the drive through the building to parking. It doesn't quite make sense to borrow that strategy for this site, because the site is adjacent to a row of a lot of residential properties and a church. With massing, I mean, I got to go back and I got to say that I do like some of the items that you've included in the building as a general concept. I just don't think they're appropriate for this site. And I think if you consider setting back and playing with the massing with additional setbacks, I think you could probably come up with something that has some of the design ideas that you're trying to get to, but in a form that's a little bit more friendly with the adjoining buildings. In terms of parking strategy, I'm wondering if maybe you could consider maintaining the lane that is already existing, which is on the, I believe it's on the, it may be on the north side of the property, where you could have an access lane to the rear, and then have 2 rows of parallel parking in the rear, exiting with ingress and egress on Cadiz Street. And that way you could set back the building, gain some square footage on the ground level, and have a setback all around, if you can follow what I just said. So parking would be in the rear. You would have 1 lane accessible through from Claiborne to the rear, but most of the ingress and egress could occur from the Cadiz Street side. And I think you could get about 24 parking spots. And if you add the 6 spots that you would get from the street, I think you can get your 30 spots. And then further, I think you could probably play with the massing, and you could maintain the square footage of the second and third floors, and you could actually set it back and cantilever it, so you could have some covered parking for at least 1 row of parking in the rear. So I think there's some fundamental design moves that you could make that could kind of get you closer to what you need, but also somewhat maintain the general aesthetic, because I do like some of the things that you're proposing, especially with the larger areas of fenestration. Do you have any comments on that or any questions about what I just said?
We'll certainly take a look at it. We're taking notes and we'll look at it.
Okay.
Certainly, we probably will not be able to do everything, but we'll certainly make attempts to hit your priorities.
Okay, you're more than welcome to try to consult with us further. You know, sometimes these things are easier to do in a charrette scenario rather than in this forum. I know this is kind of a little bit more difficult, but once again, this forum is to talk about these things. I would say that in terms of fenestration strategy, I like the large areas of fenestration aesthetically, but I'm wondering if the issues of the type of glass, whether it's opaque or not. You have a large expansive glass on the staircase side that basically shows clear glass into a fire stair. And I mean, I think that's a little bit, that's something that maybe you need to reconsider. You know, using the fenestration as a design component and maybe thinking about colors of glass or color of glass inserts that could maybe add some visual interest. I think the punch window concept is a little bit bad. It's like, I mean, that's very little design effort there. I think you could probably think about maybe how to frame them differently, create some kind of depth to them, and maybe add some color. I think there's a lot of things that you can do with the design as you've developed it, but I don't believe you've explored it enough.
Just to add 2 things about the building design, I will say that I think there is a way, and you know, this is all kind of deferential to Miguel and Danny's comments, but I think there is a way to combine option 1 and 4 from a kind of architectural presentation, as well as don't be afraid of projections, because that would also help with combating the blank appearance and flat length of walls. And so I don't know how that can conform to Miguel's comments, but I definitely think it can. And I will say, you know, we still have to make a motion, and depending on how that goes, it will kind of guide our discussion. But I think if Capital Projects and/or HDLC meets with the applicant, you know, I think either the planner, Joanna, if she's available, or either Haley and I should sit in those meetings just so we can continue to coordinate with CPC.
How about I amend my motion to defer with the opportunity to charrette with the applicant as needed to get this project moving forward.
I second.
Haley, are you going to call for a vote when you get off of mute?
Okay, we have a motion by Parks and Parkways to defer with an opportunity to charrette with the agencies present and to address the comments that were given. We have a second by Capital Projects. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? And the motion passes. Okay, this concludes the April 7th CAC meeting. Thank you for everyone for attending. Bye.